Okay. Morning, everybody. My name is Tim Major from the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. I think we've nearly all joined now, except for one of our speakers, so we'll keep fingers crossed for technology during this, but that shouldn't be to the detriment of our presentation this morning. Just for the sake of repetitiveness, there is a chat box on your screen, and if you want to enter in your contact details, then please do. And similarly, there is a Q&A box which all our panelists have access to, and please enter your questions there as well. So let's commence. Yeah, my name is Tim Major from the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I look after all the members in West Berkshire. And so I'm pleased to be here hosting this today, although you'll be pleased to know I won't be saying very much. Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce, of which West Berkshire Chamber is one part, about 4,000 members by way of background, and has about 5,000 trade customers additionally, which means that we carry out the trade facilitation documentation for our members who do import and exports. And just for info, last year we roughly on average facilitate trades in both in and out of about 1.6 to 1.7 billion pounds. And it's obviously thanks to all our members and customers that we can put on events such as this and represent our businesses and trade interests. So if any of you are not members or would like to make sure that your membership is fulfilled, then you'll see in the chat box I have put in my details. But without further ado, let me hand you across to our list of people that is before your face right now. And we've got delighted to introduce Ian Wolloff, the Principal and CEO of the University Centre Newbury and Newbury College. Alison Webster should be here, but I can't see her on the screen yet. I know she was having some technical difficulties. Oh, she's arrived, as if by magic. Okay. She's also got my name against her, so just ignore that.
Sorry about that.
You're far better than me, that's fine.
It's the only way I could get in, Tim.
No, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Thank you. And then I'm also delighted to welcome Laura Farris MP for Newbury, and welcome to you. Also, pleased to introduce Joe Bailey, the founder of Generate UK, and further Liam Faughnan, who is head of apprenticeships at UCN and Newbury College, and Helen Andrews, head of leadership and management at UCN, and Sandra Taylor, head of digital programs. And then finally, but by no means least, Dr. Joe Houghton, director of business and partnerships, also at UCN and the Newbury College. So welcome to you all, welcome to everybody online, and actually full house, I'm pleased to report. So I'll hand over to Ian. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. That's an excellent introduction, and you've managed to remember all the names. One of the games this morning is spotting the difference between what's written on the screen for people's names and who they really are, whether they're occasionally misspelt or sometimes completely erroneous names. So apologies for that. That's just part of the pleasure of Zoom, I suspect. So yeah, a warm welcome everyone to this particular event, the West Berkshire Skills for Business Recovery. I think what we collectively wanted to do with this event was just to focus on what we think is one really important aspect of the recovery from the pandemic as far as business is concerned. And that, of course, is do we have the right skills? Do we have the right people with the right skills to capitalise on any opportunities that start to arise after the recovery gets started? And do we have the people with the right skills to make sure that we are rebuilding after the shock to the economy? And I'm delighted to say that we've got the experts along this morning. In a moment, I'm going to hand over to Alison Webster from the Thames Valley Berkshire Local Enterprise Partnership, who of course are constantly monitoring the economic situation and doing everything they can really on behalf of government for the region to help to stimulate the economy and to help with that recovery. And of course, an absolutely key part of what they do, as I'm sure Alison will tell us, is also work on skills and provide support and advice for businesses with regards to their skills. They also support colleges and universities along the way as well, which is very helpful. We've also got Laura Farris with us, and thanks so much, Laura, for coming along, who's the MP, of course, for Newbury, enormously active in advising and guiding us when it comes to the recovery, and of course, an authoritative voice on business for West Berkshire and beyond. And I'm delighted also that we've got Joe Bailey with us, who of course is from Generate UK, one of our leading local businesses with regards to digital marketing. So I look forward to hearing from Joe. And along the way, we're also going to hear from colleagues at the brand new launched University Centre Newbury, which of course is on the college campus at Newbury and opens in a sort of soft launch, I suppose you would say, in September for its first ever students. So we're going to use the UCN as a kind of case study of how skills needs for business can be met in the local area. So that's probably enough from me. I'm going to move along now and hear from the interesting folk, and we're going to start with yourself, Alison. I'm hoping that we'll be able to coordinate slides as we go through. I don't think there are too many for yourself. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Alison, and hopefully we can hear you clearly. Are you there, Alison?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Ian. And I think my skills training in kind of joining Zoom is much needed. I think I need a training course there. Thank you, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here this morning. And as Ian said, I'm the recently joined, in fact, Chief Executive of the Local Enterprise Partnership. My first day was the 23rd of March, a really auspicious day. So I've been virtually leading the LEP since March. But I thought I'd just kind of mention briefly just a few things that I want to pick up. I want to tell you a little bit about the Local Enterprise Partnership. I'm conscious not everybody might know about us. I want to talk a little bit about some of the evidence that we've gathered with regard to how businesses are faring and local resilience and the impact of COVID-19 on our local economies. But what you've got on the screen is very much some of the skills responses that we've been funding both previously, but certainly in many of those cases since March, as a real direct contribution to the kind of COVID-19 crisis. So they're the things I'm planning to cover. Just to start on what is a LEP. So LEPs, we are business-led, multi-sector partnerships. So Ian mentioned we have links with FE, HE, local authorities, but also the private sector and the voluntary and community sector. But we're mandated by government to develop and lead strategies which drive local economic growth. And they're delivered through something called a strategic economic plan, although we're now developing local industrial strategies. And we had a locally signed off Berkshire industrial strategy last October. We call that the BLISS. And our programmes fall into three areas. Programmes, mainly transport projects, digital projects, but I'm pleased to say skills projects as well, such as the kind of HE campus at Newbury College. That's kind of one of our joint investments that we're really pleased to be part of. We also have a business environment programme. Many of you may have heard of the Business Growth Hub, Scale Up Berkshire. They're funded by the LEP, so they're part of the Local Enterprise Partnership. And obviously we've pivoted the work that they've done since the pandemic. They used to be looking at high growth companies only, changed the focus, and they're more universal, and they're helping people to access some of the really important both local authority and national government grants that have been that have been developed as part of the response of supporting businesses at this really difficult time. But we also invest in things like innovation hubs and kind of science parks. And then we've got, really importantly, skills, which are driven by something called a skills advisory panel with a skills priority statement. So there are three main programmes. And just kind of something else about the local economy, and I'm often shocked people don't know this, but next to London, we are the most productive part of the UK's economy. So second to London. So Berkshire contributes £42.5 billion annually to the UK's GVA. And after London, we've got the highest number of foreign direct investments and foreign-owned companies. Our people are highly qualified. And again, the young people that are coming into our economy in the next 5 years are growing. So we've got 7.5% of the local population will enter the labour market in the next 5 years. And that's higher than the kind of UK average. So with COVID-19, we've seen resilience in some sectors. And many of those sectors are really important sectors in Berkshire. So life sciences, pharma, the kind of IT and the technology companies that we have, they've been really resilient, and in fact they've shown growth. But we've also got sectors which have struggled. So we know hospitality and tourism. So the latest data that we've got shows 69% of Berkshire's food and hotel businesses are yet to fully open. Obviously arts, entertainment and culture, and very critical for us is aviation and travel. Now we don't have Heathrow in our patch, but obviously lots of people who live in our patch work at Heathrow. But it's also important to those foreign-owned companies. 77% of those have said to us recently in a Business Insight survey that proximity to Heathrow was important or very important to their operations. So the downturn in aviation and travel is kind of really hitting us. Just in terms of kind of West Berkshire, just a kind of few things to reflect on in terms of the COVID-19. Actually, West Berkshire has had fewer coronavirus cases, lower than the rest of the UK, but lower than the rest of Berkshire. And also as a consequence, it's had fewer furloughed staff, residents are more able to work from home, and the industries that the area have been less impacted by shutdown. And also the claimant count remains low, despite there's been a 222% increase in claimants between May 19 and May 20 in West Berkshire. Now the UK average is 140%, but we have to put that in the context that we started from almost full employment in the West Berkshire area. It's been a very big rise. And yet what I'm really trying to get to the bottom of, and I'd really appreciate people's insights on, is there was a report from, recently from the Centre for Progressive Policy, which actually predicts that COVID-19 will cause a higher fall in West Berkshire economic output compared to the national average. So they're projecting a 42% decline in quarter 2 2020, which is the 52nd highest out of 382 local authorities. And the UK average there is 35%. And so sort of about sectors, I spoke about West Berkshire, but look at the demographics who are being hit. So young people, the under 25s, women and the lower skilled are those who are most likely to be furloughed, most likely to be facing job loss. So what we've done as a local enterprise partnership is work really quickly with our partners in the FE sector, but also with local authorities. And very quickly, so from April, you might have seen we launched a redundancy and redeployment site. Many of the people, for example, losing their jobs in hospitality and retail have got really good customer service skills that could be transferred to those areas where they're still recruiting. So that's health and social care is kind of one kind of good example. They've got very good transferable skills. We've also commissioned evidence and a business insight survey to inform and support our own planning, but also the local authorities in the short-term response. But as a LEP, we know that we've got a responsibility to look at the medium and the long-term recovery and how do we renew our economy. And we're expecting in a September devolution and recovery white paper to be commissioned by government to have locally agreed recovery plans in place by December this year. We've also launched, and you'll see there's a little kind of link to this on the screen, a skills portal. I'm really delighted that all the local authorities and the FE colleges are supporting this. Fantastic website that's been softly launched, but that's launched, and we've revised our skills priority structure.
And we're working with FE colleges to invest in future jobs. So many of you will have seen the government talked about their New Deal, the Building Back Better, which was launched by the Prime Minister on the 30th of June. And what the government's looking for there is to look at recovery and regrowth to pivot really our local economies. So to think about climate change, the green recovery agenda, support for AI, cutting edge technology, and how cities and town centres become more integrated and fast moving. Just briefly want to talk about some key issues for business, which we picked up from the Business Insights survey, which I think people might be interested in. And what we're hearing is that some of the local authority grants aren't filtering down. Obviously, there's concern about exclusion from the rateable value. If you're earning, that it's kind of only for those with a rateable value of 51,000 or less for grants. Obviously, the loss of income, supply chain issues, cash flow, and people struggling with some of their insurance payments not coming through. And our Business Insights survey interestingly show that 46% of businesses expect to recover within this year, 27% think it'll take longer, 22% really just don't know, they don't know when they're going to recover. But 5% have seen growth already. So they're your pharma, your life sciences and the technology companies. But really worryingly, and I think really important for this discussion today, is only 20% of businesses are currently hiring. And we've seen a total disappearance of what I would call those vital entry-level jobs, the apprenticeships, the graduate level jobs. And also 66% of businesses tell us that they anticipate making, or they have already made, significant changes to their business model as a result of COVID-19. So the world of work is changing, so are the business models. But what we know in the LEP, and I know what the college know and the chamber know, is that the skilled workforce is fundamental to being able to adapt, to be resilient and to survive. And our local businesses have already shown great resilience and creativity in adapting their business model. So let's keep Berkshire a second only to London in terms of economic productivity and growth. And let's have a great conversation today about how skills and working with our young people will help us to maintain that really leading edge position. Thank you, Ian.
That's great. That was my nomination there for phrase of the year is you are on mute. So apologies for that as I just come back in again. Thank you so much, Alison, on that. It's great to see the work of the LEP. The LEP is important at all times, but at this really challenging time, it's great to have the organisation looking at what's happening overall, guiding us along the way, and of course making the practical responses as well, which is to support projects and in the case of a number of skills initiatives to put the government's money to best use. So thank you so much for that. We'll come to questions collectively at the end if we may. I'm going to move on now and invite Laura Farris, who of course is Member of Parliament for Newbury, just to give us that wider view that she gets from Parliament, I'm sure, and to give us an idea how government thinking is going for this area. Over to you, Laura.
Thanks very much, Ian. And I found myself nodding along to a lot of what both you and Alison said, and I'll just kind of add my thoughts in relation to what Alison was saying. One of the things that does strike me about West Berkshire is that we have a particularly diverse economy, and partly I've reached that conclusion actually from conversations I've had with other members of Parliament, where I realised, had I not had those conversations, that they have far more exposed local economies, say in the southwest on tourism, or in parts of the north in relation to manufacturing, where a significant economic downturn in certain areas could have a catastrophic effect. And one of the great strengths of this part of the world is the diversity of what goes on. Alison mentioned very properly actually, life sciences, IT, tech, all of those areas are significant areas of interest for the government. I think demand is not only going to remain high, but these are seen as growth areas where the skill set that we have locally actually is going to be remain in high demand. By contrast, hospitality, retail, tourism, as we know, are being heavily affected at the moment. Heathrow is a critical hub to the success of West Berkshire's businesses, but the reality is all the airlines are under pressure, and I'm sure many of you are aware of the very difficult situation with BA. I've represented a number of my constituents who are employed by BA, and that battle, I think it's fair to say, because it's been widely reported, has had an ugly dimension, because there is a really strong view among the employees at every level of the organisation that BA are using COVID to push through a restructure that they would have liked to have got through many years ago, but successful industrial action prevented them from doing so. So I have been kind of fighting their cause, and I think I know quite a lot about the details of that exercise anyway. But if I could just focus on what I think is going on in central government, which I think is broadly good news for West Berkshire, and why. First of all, I know that many of you will have sort of probably read in the paper the fact that before we broke for summer recess in Parliament, the government essentially fired the starting gun on further education reform. And I think there was there has been for a while, it's been ruminating, but it's now beginning to take shape. There is a real recognition of the fact that too many people have been going to university for too long, leaving with degree courses that don't sufficiently prepare them for professional life, that didn't get them the jobs they thought that they might be training for, and that we should have a far greater focus and place a far greater value on further education. Not just this, I think it's also recognised that the kind of colleges that we have in medium-sized towns like Newbury, places like Newbury College, the University Centre, are really the anchors actually of those towns. They have a huge kind of inherent value. And everything that I'm seeing coming out of central government is about sort of shining a spotlight on places like Newbury College and on the value of creating further education opportunities and apprenticeships and making that a massive focus in the recovery. And that's not just warm words, although I do think the detail is going to be fleshed out in the autumn agenda. It's been directly matched by the first sort of green shoots that we've seen coming out of the Treasury when the Chancellor made his summer statement, which is very much something I think to view as a sort of interim statement ahead of the autumn budget. I think, or I hope that many of you are aware that there was a significant focus on young people, and particularly young people who were working in the kind of skills sector. I'll just remind you of a few of the financial boosts that were made available, but there was the Kickstart Scheme, where anyone who is in the age range of 16 to 24, the government has guaranteed their wages for a 6-month period, beginning from whatever that week in July, when the Chancellor made the statement, was that the government will guarantee their wages as long as the employer can show that the job that young person has been offered is a new job, that the employee themselves is aged between 16 and 24, and that they're earning no less than the minimum wage. And I think there was a minimum hours requirement of 25 hours per week too. Now, obviously, the government recognises that not all of those jobs will necessarily exist forever. But the idea is that those people get something, they get work, the government guarantees the wages, and another condition for the employer is that they're good quality jobs. In other words, that they're getting some form of training while they're doing that 6 months of work. And that reflects what I think is the broader objective of the government, to place a real value on work-based training. The second thing that was part of his announcement was the £2,000 bonus that is available to any employer who takes on, again, new young apprentices. I'm pretty sure, although I'd have to check the detail, that has to be apprenticeships that wouldn't otherwise have existed. But it's a fairly generous cash subsidy, very much encouraging employers who would typically have sort of a space or a scope for apprenticeship, a work-based training, to think about doing so, with really direct financial incentives for them to do so. So all of that, I think, is really good and important news for places like Newbury College, but for our young people and for those who are, who are developing skills at this point in time. And I think it is recognised that young people have probably had the hardest time through all of this, because the training that they were doing was pretty much cut off. They were often sent back to live, if they were young, with parents, or in situations where they weren't in roles that they could easily be furloughed from or work from home from. And so I think the government has got a real commitment, not just to work-based training, but that too, but also to the futures of our young people. I think that's good news for West Berkshire. But then the next thing is, are the skills that we're providing and offering to young people the right types of skills? And my kind of initial assessment is that they are actually. I do think, insofar as, we may historically have been preparing people for careers in hospitality, tourism, and so on, that obviously is something that should be, I think, urgently addressed, because those jobs are not only vulnerable now, but it looks like they're going to be vulnerable in the long term. And there is going to have to be some broader rethink about how we approach those worlds. But in other sectors, construction, engineering, digital skills, IT, even, dare I say it, childcare, I think that these are all substantial kind of training areas that happen in Newbury and West Berkshire. And these are all the kinds of skills that are going to remain and continue to be in high demand. So I think overall, we are kind of getting our young people fit for the future. And Alison was talking about, she was talking about sort of two, obviously she talked about life sciences and IT, but this is not just a sort of general area of interest, it's a specific area of interest. Science parks too, this is a huge, there's a very strong appetite at the centre to make this country a sort of world-beating leader in science after we properly leave the European Union on whatever trade terms. That is the direction of travel: science, life science, IT, tech. So any kind of skills base that gets our young people fit for that kind of future, I think is going to be invaluable, and it's also going to be putting them in the strongest possible position to take advantage of the direction that the economy is moving towards. And that's not me trying to underplay the seriousness of the economic situation that we face, but it is trying to peel back some of the inevitabilities of a recession and ask what the direction of travel is for this part of the world, and ask quite critically whether or not I think that we're doing that our interests are in the right areas. And my feeling is that they are, but I would leave it obviously to the educational leaders to kind of recalibrate that in such a way. But I hope that gives you a sense of what I think central government is thinking and where we are at this point in time. And I think the picture, it is not bad at all, actually.
That's great. Thank you for that, Laura. And it is fascinating from, of course, my point of view as somebody working with a college and now with the new university centre, the emphasis that government is putting on skills, of course. And I think really importantly that that message about joined up thinking in education and joined up thinking then across education to businesses and the economy. And I think that's something that we're trying to respond to much more. I think that that's a very welcome development of government thinking, and is coming through very strongly. And whilst it's a minority interest, I know there is a white paper coming through in the autumn. The government is planning around further education skills, so it should be very interesting to see that crystallised. So thank you so much. I'm going to move us swiftly on, if I may, to invite Joe, who's from Generate UK, one of our leading local digital businesses, to give us a view from industry. So over to you, Joe.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks for inviting me to come and have a chat today. I guess from my perspective, just to give you a little bit of background in Generate, I started the business 12 years ago. I guess that at that time it was a recession, and my aim was to build out a digital-based marketing agency with a variety of different skills and offer clients different skill sets and services, from web development through to app development, through to online marketing, search engine optimization, and various skills. And since the started to generate. Obviously, the digital world has sort of taken off. We currently have 25 people in the business. I was fortunate enough only to have to furlough one member of staff, and for that reason, they were had a partner who was a key worker, so they actually chose and almost wanted to be furloughed because of their situation. But within the business, we had to reduce our capacities down in the month of May, but then we're up to full capacity in June, and we've carried on, and we are starting to see some green shoots in certain areas. It very much, I think, for myself, it is based on the type of clients that you work with, and on how big you're going to feel the impact of COVID. But we did probably lose around about 40% of our revenue on a month-to-month basis, and now we're starting to try to build that revenue back up within the business. It has had an impact. It will continue to have an impact, obviously, but we're here to talk about skills. And prior to sort of COVID hitting, back in 2019, and being an old Newbury College boy myself, I was keen to develop the business and get more ties with the college and try to bring on young people within the community, and try to build our recruitment plan around our growth strategy in line with young people. So we come up with the Generate UK Marketing Academy, and our current Revive and Thrive plan sort of includes upskilling with Skillshare and other online platforms within the business. We established the Generate UK Marketing Academy, which was hopefully going to address sort of local skills shortages and allow us to try to bring on young people in a flexible working environment. It could be a 3-month placement, it could be a 6-month placement, it could be an apprenticeship, it could be, you know, we were very open to the type of sort of agreements and arrangements that we have, and we wanted to build that long-term recruitment plan. So it allowed us to ensure that sort of our staff development plans were aligned with our business strategy, and ultimately for us it was all about trying to develop young people in our business. Now we got to a position where we had a number of students come in, and we were starting to go down the selection process, and unfortunately that's when COVID hit. So it has been put on hold until later this year. We're in communication with Newbury College. We're really excited by the UCN, and we're looking forward to it opening, because I think as a business we have to look at ways to develop our staff. We have to look at ways to develop young people. We have a responsibility, I believe, to do that locally, and ultimately, so education has a responsibility to support the businesses to develop their recruitment and bring on young people. So in answer to your original question, Ian, do we have the right skills? I believe we do. I've seen the courses that the Newbury College are putting on and other educational authorities, and I think we have the skills. Are they in line with the local and national economy? You know, in terms of where the key industries are, yes, I believe they are. But it's also about trying to keep those people within the West Berkshire and Berkshire region. And it's going to be interesting, I see now, in terms of the new way of working, how business can adapt to allow young people still to come into their businesses, because I think at the moment we have 2 people in the office, everybody is still working at home, productively, I should say. However, it has put on hold things like our marketing academy, because obviously we need to be there, we need to be working in a room with it and supporting young people as they grow. And you know, I think the future is bright. I genuinely believe that. I just feel we have to continue to work together in partnership, which we are currently doing. I'm really looking forward to moving that forward in the future.
That's great. Thanks so much for that, Joe. And you know, it's great to see those links there between business and indeed educational institutions. One or two thoughts coming through in the chat box there, just to quickly respond on one point. There is a lot of focus on young people, and in fact, the government, of course, is putting a very strong focus on the skills needs for young people. In terms of our angle on that, in terms of the college and the university centre, that's certainly not our only focus, and I know many other providers as well, that's definitely not their only focus. And we're looking strongly at perhaps the upskilling needs and the reskilling needs of adults as well. So I'm sure others will say more about that in a moment. What I'm going to do is move us on swiftly, if I may, and invite Liam, who of course is the manager for apprenticeships at the new University Centre and for the college as well, because Liam's had a look at the responses to the survey that went out prior to this particular event today, and of course that gives us a bit of a wider view there on what is going on out there and what people are thinking about skills needs. So if you're there, Liam, I'll try and click the right slides for you at the right moment, and over to you now.
Thank you, Ian. Yeah, thank you for having me today, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to everyone that's submitted feedback and completed the survey as well. I think it's reassuring to see that the feedback we got is pretty much in line with the feedback Laura and Alison have already given us as well. So it's nice to know that the national picture is also being filtered through on a regional level. So again, and the feedback as well mirrors what's being reported by like the big four accounting and auditing companies like Deloitte, PwC, etc. So it's good to see that obviously what we're seeing here isn't unique for the area, but there's still lots of key patterns and key trends to take away. So the first point of the questionnaire was talking about scenario planning. So companies are still finding specialist vacancies hard to fill. I don't know about other people in the call, but I'm getting calls daily from recruitment agencies saying that they're looking for people with certain skill set to fill roles, and there's opportunities out there at the moment. Don't worry, Ian and Joe, I'm not looking elsewhere. But yeah, the calls are coming through. People are recognising that roles will need to have a wider scope. So again, I think this is based on reduced headcount. This is based on companies having to pivot their offering, and people having to do more work in respect of that. People are identifying upskilling as important and training on areas of outside the usual remit for their role. So again, I think this is aligned with the point before. Long-term recruitment plans being aligned to business strategies. So again, a lot of businesses are having to rethink their business strategies over the next 6 months to 5 years because of what's been going on. There's more short-term contracts, part-time and outsourcing options. Again, I think that if you look at a lot of the outsourcing websites, they're reporting a huge surge in freelance work that's going on at the moment, especially as companies look to protect themselves when it comes to things such as headcounts. Where possible, grow your own. So companies are looking at the power of apprenticeships and opportunities for young people. I think obviously this may be on the back of what the agenda is being set by the government at present, but to say that, it doesn't mean to say that apprenticeships have to be for young people. Apprenticeship funding can be used for existing staff, no matter their age, to help develop new skills. Again, I think we're all in unison with the fact that everyone's had to be more flexible, especially where we've had to work on site and off site. And obviously people have identified there's some important attributes. So regardless of your age, you still need to have self-discipline, initiative, flexibility, and be multi-skilled. Okay, so then the next set of questions revolved around the people strategy and the business's operational plan. So again, what we alluded to on the first set of slides, we need to do more of a reduced headcount. So again, this is a reality for a lot of companies where they've had to have furloughed staff, and unfortunately where the furlough scheme comes to an end, I think some companies are looking at their reducing headcount. So those people that are still in those positions and still working, they obviously can have to pick up the slack of the people of a reduced headcount organisation. So then we're also looking at upskilling local or current workforce, investing in your employees' training to build loyalty and reward talent. So again, there's another set of slides that were about recognition and questions about that. So again, it's looking at, again, developing your own and rewarding the employees that have worked extremely hard over the last 3-4 months, and then showing them some loyalty by developing their skill set. Develop staff management skills by then mentoring apprentices and new employees. Engaging with students to help them develop their soft skills, workplace practices, help them develop a passion for the subject. So again, that could be related to the government's push in things such as T-levels and the work experience elements of those courses. So again, a lot of local employers do engage with the college and engage with a lot of colleges and training providers to provide work experience opportunities. And then monitor people and resources against budgets and cash flows. So again, I think at the moment for a lot of companies that are going to be tightening their budgets, being able to monitor and having tighter control on budgets and cash flow is going to be imperative. Okay, and then we started looking at coming out of the pandemic and how you can prepare and shape for the new normal. I think everyone knows that things are not going to return to normal for a very long time yet. So one of the things that people suggested they were going to do is by providing opportunities for employees. So online learning seems to be a very keen or very popular area at the moment, especially with everyone working remotely. Exposure to other areas of the business, promotion opportunities. So again, it is key that there are still opportunities out there. Companies are reporting green shoots. Companies that have pivoted their businesses during the pandemic have also shown that they can thrive during the pandemic. So again, it's not all doom and gloom for everyone. Review succession plans in light of the new business shape and size. Again, it's common sense. If you're looking to the future, succession planning may change because it may be a fact that roles have evolved, business needs have evolved, and obviously you need to have the workforce that reflects that. Keeping your teams well informed. I think communication, especially with a remote workforce, is extremely key. And it's obviously some people can feel a bit on the outside, especially if they're just being communicated to daily by emails when they're working at home, and it's just everything's that a little bit different. Discuss issues and challenges. So again, I think this feedback's come through quite a lot in terms of how organisations and businesses and even within those organisations, how small teams communicate with each other and help each other and support each other through the challenges. Provide opportunities for people to grow and develop, and then focusing on staff retention, which again, where companies that are saying they're finding it hard to recruit specialist staff, obviously it's the focus on making sure they can keep the staff that they've already got. Okay, recognition and retention. So again, recognition to motivate someone and offer an incentive. It doesn't have to be a huge incentive, or it doesn't have to be a huge slice of recognition. It can just be a simple thank you. So people suggested that they're going to give more small regular incentives to maintain staff motivation. I think everyone has said that their teams have come together and staff have come together really well and produced exceptional results during the pandemic. I think that's made a lot of leadership and management structures realise the effort that's been put in below at the front-facing level. Include team members in participating in ideas and strategy. Again, there's been so many great examples of companies that have pivoted their offering during the pandemic, where they've actually taken ideas from team members and they've created new products or brought new products to the market. So there's so many great stories, positive stories that have come out through that. Provide opportunities for career development and internal promotion. Appraisals are more important than ever. Recognise an employee's worth and contribution to the company. Reassurance on job security. Ensure employees understand how they fit into the aims and goals of the business, and outline the career path with training and development goals. So a lot of that stuff is probably things you'd expect all businesses to be doing, and unfortunately this is one of the things that do seem to get forgotten. So it's great to see that companies are starting to realise they need to put an emphasis back on the recognition. Mental health, I think at the moment is obviously also a key point with the remote workforces. A lot of people suffering with anxiety and the anxiousness of the pandemic and the COVID, and also job security. So some of the feedback we've seen is that companies are ensuring that changes in work norms are introduced with consultation and guidance to make sure people are supported through change. Regular online meetings and chat groups. So sometimes this has been, I've seen examples of companies having these where it's like a non-work talk environment. So there's regular like meeting groups. I think everyone's been involved in a pub quiz or a family Zoom call during the pandemic. So again, the company's trying to introduce that. So Friday and Saturday night, like virtual pub nights and things like that. So there's no work talk allowed. Maintaining the feeling of being part of a team, especially when working remotely. A lot of companies have struggled with this, and there's lots of innovative ideas on how you can achieve this, and lots of companies are now starting to thrive and getting it. And then regular one-to-one catch-ups with individual members of staff. So again, I know they're on the call, but the management structure at Newbury has been fantastic in terms of the support they've offered people working remotely. There's been regular one-to-one contact calls just to make sure everything's okay, make sure I've got everything that I need. Is my table okay? Is my chair comfortable enough? Do I need anything? So again, in that kind of scenario, it's great that companies are offering that kind of support. And then we move on to leadership. So again, I think a lot of companies and a lot of focus has been on leadership during the pandemic. So a lot of the key themes that emerged from the results we received was the understanding the difference between leadership and management. So obviously there's times when you need to be a leader, there's times when you need to be a manager, and obviously the grey lines, the grey areas that occur between the two roles. Leadership training and mentoring can be effective. So companies are recognising that training leaders is beneficial to the company. And I think there's so much evidence that supports this as well. Regular meetings with leaders, so that could be leaders regularly addressing all the workforce. That could be them popping into small group meetings, just making sure that everyone knows from the top to the bottom of an organisation what is going on. And again, I think I can only talk from a Newbury perspective, but Ian's been fantastic at doing that during the pandemic. I think we've all felt engaged with Ian, and we feel regularly updated with all the changes that have been going on, especially as the changes on education by the government have been changing daily in some cases. So obviously that communication strategy is key. Consistency and clarity of the message in the workplace is important. Leaders need to be engaged and interactive with people, so you need to feel that you can approach your leaders. And also companies have said they need to provide training for their leaders in other areas such as finance, HR, and health and safety. Okay, and then one of the things I think that we've seen accelerated is the digital transformation across a lot of businesses in the UK thanks to the pandemic. So again, I've got a building site next to just over the road from my house, and talking to some of the builders on a daily basis. They're doing a lot of stuff now remotely using Zoom, and some of the builders even joke that they don't even know how to use a computer 3 months ago, but now they're doing Zoom calls on a daily basis. So a lot of companies are now embracing digital technologies. Obviously, with that, there does come the heightened risks and security risks. Obviously, GDPR, which was the bane of every company's lives a couple of years ago. Again, people saying that they need more training on that. Training needed on communication systems. Fortunately, if you look online, there's lots of great resources for things such as Teams and Zoom. Digital transformation is critical for businesses to survive and thrive. Achieve efficiencies through the use of technology, ensure team are well trained in any new technology, and remote working has thrown up the cyber risks.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Liam. I'm conscious that remaining presenters, we've got 10 minutes left on our time to keep this focused. So I'm going to move on swiftly, if I may, to Helen Andrews, who's the programme leader for Leadership and Management Programmes at the new UCN. Over to you, Helen.
Thanks very much, Ian. Yes, well, I wanted to take the opportunity really to introduce myself to all the participants. I've recently joined University Centre Newbury, and I come from a business background, so I really understand the issues which people are facing. So I wanted to sort of highlight that the tutors that we use at the University Centre Newbury are or have been practitioners, business practitioners, and I think that's an important aspect for for students, that they often respond very well to practitioner educators in terms of sharing their insights and their experience. So I just wanted to introduce myself to start with, and I was involved very much in business transformation after the last economic downturn and the years that happened after that. So I know that there will be things coming along. I've got an HR background and I was an interim manager for many years, and I know that things are going to move very quickly, and the sort of skill sets that your managers and leaders need, sometimes you are running to catch up in terms of their capability, because things are moving ever so quickly. So I just really wanted to say that I empathise with the challenges that you have, and in terms of the programmes that we are developing or have already developed at the University Centre Newbury, that is very much at the forefront of what we're doing. We want things to be very, very practical with that academic foundation. Moving on to some of the other things that I wanted to talk about. There's a few questions here that are more in depth, I guess, than some of the things on the survey, and they're particularly related to management and leadership. And I would like some feedback from participants or people watching the webinar afterwards around some of these questions. How has this crisis impacted your management and leadership development needs? What has changed? Have skill sets, do skill sets need to be updated? How can apprenticeship programs support organisational challenges in the medium term? So as Liam and others were saying earlier, apprenticeships are not just for the young. They are there and they're available for people right through their working lives. So and people of all levels of the organisation. So I'd like to understand more from you around what you would like to see the UCN doing to support leadership development. To date, we've set up 3 programmes which are going to launch in September, and further programmes will be developed, obviously with the feedback that we are getting from employers now, in terms of leadership and management for current leaders and managers, and upskilling and reskilling those people. So we've got a CMI diploma in management and leadership at level 5, which is going to be running from September, and that is an apprenticeship programme which is the departmental and operations manager programme. It's very much for new and aspiring line managers, and a 2-year programme. We also have a chartered manager degree apprenticeship which we're running in conjunction with Bucks New University, which will lead to a degree and also chartered management status for people who are in junior and middle management roles, and also a senior leader degree apprenticeship. Some of the arrangements around degree apprenticeships are changing, and at the moment a senior leader degree apprenticeship also leads to an MBA qualification, a Masters in Business Administration, but that will be changing. So if employers have an interest in upskilling senior managers or people who are aspiring to be senior leaders, then I think now is the time to get involved with that, because you know, the students are going to be able to get that MBA, whereas in the future that MBA qualification will be decoupled, as it were, from the apprenticeship. So those are 3 programs that we've got starting in September, and there are many more in development on the leadership and management side, and looking at the skills gap, young people that want to achieve their degree locally, who are you know, new into leadership and management, as well as these employer cohorts. So we are, you know, it's a very exciting time. I'm really excited to be part of the ECN, and I'm looking forward to developing the programs that we offer in conjunction with local employers.
That's great. Thank you so much, Helen. And I'm conscious we're running slightly behind time, so I'm going to move swiftly on, if I may, to Sandra Taylor, who's the head of digital programs for the UCN. Are you there, Sandra?
I am, thank you. Good morning all. I'm conscious of time, so I'll have to make this quick. So as you can see, I've come from industry as well as being in education. I've literally just come from industry, and I can see the effect that this whole pandemic has had on the whole digital area, as it were, for all of these big multinationals. As you can see, yes, I do have professional qualifications amongst the usual teacher ones as well. During my experience in education and outside, I have worked for software development, for networking, and it has naturally led to cybersecurity as well. And though this is something that in this pandemic that everybody is thinking is the main thing, I do believe that actually having been outside in industry, the fundamentals are also missing. There are a lot of people that have been in industry that have old qualifications and that actually need to upskill. And lately through this apprenticeship scheme, they can do that. Can we move to the next slide? Sorry, I'll do this very quickly. Thank you. Right, so what I've noticed actually, because I've only been with the UCN for about a month now, the lockdown, how has it affected the business and with the staff working from home? Something that I have noticed is that digital equipment, PC world or anything like that, they are running very, very low on office equipment, technology, because everybody is now making their home environment so much more comfortable so that they're able to work. This has then had a knock on. How is that changing it for the businesses and their way of working? You have your network obviously at work, but your workers are now working from home. How are you facilitating that? As you can see, broadband is obviously a big issue for some people, but how are you working through these challenges? How are the people at work? How have they changed for this? And are they educated enough to do it? Our thing, I suppose, at the UCN is to be able to help educate those staff, existing and new ones, so that they're able to do this better. My thing again is I don't believe the way of working that we had is going to be that way anymore. I believe this is our new normal. And as such, I'd like to see that we're actually able to offer businesses something to enable their staff to be more clued up with this. So just going very quickly. We haven't got any programs developed at the moment because we're waiting to see what the business need is. Now, originally, as I said, cybersecurity was definitely on the top, but having spoken to a number of businesses, networking and software appears to be what people are asking for because they want the fundamentals there so that they can then understand how to work with the cyber aspects of it as well. We are going to be working with a university to work out for the cybersecurity technical professional degree, which will be available from September next year. But I think my question really to businesses is, could you tell us what you're looking for? And as such, we can then tailor our offering to you so that we're meeting the needs of the local business and basically the whole area. Very, very quickly, I hope I'm in time. Over to you, Ian.
Great, lovely. Thanks very much, Sandra. And I'm conscious people are having to drop off the call now. No reflection on your input, Joe, I'm sure, as you get the end slot there. I guess we are going to just run over by 5 minutes, but I'm sure you'll move swiftly through your main points. So over to Joe Houghton.
Yes, so my message really is come and talk to providers at the moment. So colleges and the university centre are a hub of future skills, and you know we have a huge amount of talent in our students, and I think the message at the moment is, you know, do come and talk to us about what programs you're wanting and engage with us, because this is what we do. We can help you, we can advise, and we can, you know, sort of use your input to motivate the young people and get them on the right programs and get them into their careers and their future employment. So there's lots of government funding and incentives out there at the moment. Your, you know, colleges, universities, your training providers, this is what we do every day, day in, day out. We know about this, and, you know, sort of if you engage with us, if you talk to us, we can let you know about the incentives that are coming up, because again, there's more and more being done all the time. The main changes that have happened at the moment are T-levels are starting in September 2020. These are the new equivalent technical levels to A-levels, and they're developed with employers, and they ensure that every student on a T-level program has 315 hours of work placement with an employer that is a meaningful work placement. Now, by engaging with these young people, if you're having recruitment problems, if you're having difficulties finding talent, the more you can actually start that journey with the young people, get the name of your business so that they know what you do, they know the name of your company. The earlier that starts, and the more that you're actually in the colleges, in the university centres, you know, they will start to understand and think, oh, actually, I want to go there, and I want to do that career, and I want to move into that field for my future career. So engaging with work placements, you know, sort of, you may think, actually, you know, it's a bit of work, I'm going to have to put mentors in place and support that, but actually it's a long-term investment. Sector-based work academies have come back onto the agenda. There's some new programs starting September 2020. These are designed, they work very well in areas like health and social care, where there's, you know, sort of a need for people coming into the industry, and it helps job centre placements do a placement. There's pre-employment training, you provide work experience, they have an interview, and again, it's a good way of ensuring that you can have some new staff coming through. You can try them and see if you can then recruit from the people that you have. That could go on for ages. There's traineeships as well, and we'll go on to apprenticeships. With the apprenticeships, if you are a large company with a pay bill of over £3 million, you will have been paying your apprenticeship levy. The details are on the slides, but if we go to the next slide, if you are an apprenticeship company paying the levy, there was £330 million of unspent funds paid back to the Treasury in 2019-20, and £300 million paid back in 2017-18 from levy funds that were not used for apprenticeship training. The government gives every monthly payment that you provide a 10% uplift. And apprenticeships, people have different perceptions of apprenticeships from their historical view of them. As people have said through the slide, you know, through the presentation, they can now be used for upskilling staff, they can be used for higher level qualifications, they can be used for young people, and they're much more robust with the new standards that have been written. They've been written by employers, and they're much more robust, and the quality is much higher now with apprenticeship programs. If you're not a levy paying employer, you pay 5% of the cost of your apprenticeship training. So just with some examples there, for a £27,000 course, you would pay £1,350. For a £5,000 course, you would pay £250. So again, it's, you know, sort of it's utilising those opportunities that the government is giving. On to the next slide. So Rishi Sunak provided some more incentives for apprenticeships a few weeks ago. So from August this year to January next year, if you recruit a new 16 to 18-year-old, there will be £3,000 available of incentive payments for you to have recruited that apprentice. For a new 19 to 24-year-old, there's £2,000, and someone over 25, you'll receive an incentive of £1,500. So again, if you think of it, particularly if you're a non-levy payer or you're paying automatically into your levy payments, actually this money could cover the cost of your, you know, sort of what you're paying for your training costs for a new apprentice. I think, you know, sort of that message is talk to your colleges, talk to your university, talk to, you know, training providers, talk to us, engage with us. We can help with setting up your apprenticeship service accounts. We can advise you on incentive payments. We support you with the recruitment of apprentices or upskilling your staff. We advise and support on the contracts. We support the on-the-job and off-the-job training. We're trying to work as flexibly as possible to work with your business needs and accommodate your business needs at the moment. And we do a lot of work with ensuring that endpoint assessments go smoothly. So, you know, and that is a lot of work, as Liam will advise. But you know, there's a lot of support there for us. So message is, come and talk to us. We're here to help you. We're here to advise you. And, you know, there's a lot of knowledge.
That's great. Thank you, Jo. And thank you to everyone for those very interesting insights there, those thoughts, both from the world of business and the world of skills provision as to how we can best respond to what we all hope, of course, is a swift recovery from the pandemic. We no doubt all spend our days trying to read the runes, trying to understand exactly what's going on with the pandemic itself, and for, of course, our businesses, what is happening with the economy. I think, as most people have agreed as we've gone through, it is important to plan for the next steps. You know, regardless of what else happens, recovery is essential. It's crucial to our nation. It's crucial to our economy, that we do everything we can to begin to put the building blocks back together again. And skills are very clearly a very crucial part of that whole process. So I think we're well and truly out of time. Thank you so much to all the panelists today, to Alison from the LEP for giving us the overview from their perspective, of course to Laura Farris, MP for Newbury, the wider governmental view, to Jo Bailey from Generate UK, for giving us that particular view from his perspective, and then to the various members of the team from the new University Centre. The very best of luck with your new endeavours, and I know that you're keen to hear from and continue to engage with all the businesses in our local community to make sure that what we're doing is providing the skills that businesses need. I think that most of the questions and comments have been responded to as we've gone through. Very interesting chat there in the chat box. Lots of interesting contributions and lots of information provided. So thank you to everybody who's done that. I'm going to close now then, and a final thank you to all the attendees, and particularly those who are still here as we've run slightly over time. But I know there'll be many others who want to have a look at this webinar in the asynchronous environment to have a look at the information that's provided. So thank you so much to all of you, and have a great day. It should be a lovely sunny one. Cheers all.
Bye.
Thank you very much. And I've shared the slides out with all the participants as well, so they can have a personal copy so they know who to contact for the details. And thank you for everybody who sent in all those pre-questionnaires. It was most grateful to you, and thank you for joining us at the Thames Valley Chamber of Commerce. It was a pleasure to see you.